On a crisp September evening in 2023, Ethan Caldwell, a 32-year-old accountant with a knack for numbers and a quiet demeanor, stood awkwardly at the edge of a rooftop bar in downtown Denver, the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains glowing orange. Under the setting sun, his brown eyes scanning the crowd of tech bros and PR reps clinking glasses to celebrate a startup's latest funding round, his navy blazer and jeans feeling painfully out of place among the curated chaos of tailored suits and linen dresses, his heart sinking as his wife, Lila Caldwell, floated across the room, her auburn hair catching the string lights. Her laugh, louder than he'd heard in months. She'd insisted he come to this party, a last-minute plea over breakfast that morning. "It's a big deal, Ethan. Nathan's counting on me." Her voice bright with an edge he couldn't place. Nathan Holt being the CEO of her company, a man she described as visionary, with a smile Ethan hadn't seen since their honeymoon, so he'd agreed, driven by a flicker of hope that maybe tonight they'd reconnect. Maybe tonight she'd look at him the way she used to, his brown eyes searching for hers as he gripped a warm IPA, the bottle sweating in his hand. But Lila didn't look back. Not once. Not even when she introduced him to a colleague with a breezy, "This is Ethan." No mention of husband, no warmth, just a quick smile before she drifted toward a leather couch where Nathan Holt held court, his charcoal suit sharp, his grin sharper, her hand grazing his arm as she leaned in, whispering something that made him laugh, a laugh that cut through the chatter like a blade. Ethan's chest tightening as he stood there, invisible in a room of 50 strangers, his brown eyes flickering with a mix of shame and confusion, the music a pulsing indie track, drowning out his thoughts, but not the sting of being erased, not the weight of watching Lila orbit Nathan, her body angled toward him, her eyes bright in a way Ethan hadn't seen since they'd danced at their wedding 4 years ago, a memory that now felt like someone else's life, his brown eyes catching a woman nearby muttering, "Didn't know she was married?" Her words a punch he wasn't meant to hear, his jaw clenching as he set the IPA on a table, untouched, his heart whispering, "You don't belong here." A whisper that grew louder with every second Lila stayed by Nathan's side, her laugh echoing again, her hand now on his shoulder. Ethan's brown eyes burning with a realization he wasn't ready to name, a realization that pushed him toward the exit, past a bartender who offered a pitying nod, down the stairs, and into the cool Denver night. His phone silent in his pocket. No text, no call, just the hum of the city and the ache of being forgotten, his brown eyes lifting to the mountains, a fleeting thought crossing his mind. Maybe I should have stayed home, but home hadn't felt like home in months, not since Lila started coming. Back late, her purse heavy with new perfumes, her stories light on details, his brown eyes dimming as he climbed into his Subaru, the engine's rumble a faint comfort, the drive to their Lodo apartment, a blur of neon signs and unanswered questions. His heart heavier than the Rockies looming in the distance, a heart that didn't yet know the storm waiting just beyond the horizon, a storm that would unravel everything he thought he knew about the woman he loved, a storm that would force him to choose between holding on and walking away, his brown eyes fixed on the road, unaware that tonight was only the beginning, the first crack in a marriage already breaking, a crack that would soon split wide open, exposing truths he'd never imagined, truths that would change him forever, truths that would demand he become someone new, someone stronger, someone ready to face the fire and not look back. In the dim glow of a Denver street lamp outside their Lodo apartment, Ethan Caldwell, now 32 and unraveling, sat in his Subaru at 10:37 p.m. on that same September night in 2023, the engine off, the silence louder than the rooftop party he'd fled hours ago, his brown eyes staring at his phone as it lit up with a single text from Lila. "Where are you?" "Come back," sent 12 minutes after he'd left the bar, a message that felt less like concern and more like an afterthought, his heart twisting with a mix of betrayal and disbelief as he replayed the evening. Lila's laugh with Nathan Holt, her hand on his shoulder, the way she'd introduced him as just Ethan, her auburn hair glowing under the string lights while he stood invisible, his brown eyes clouding with the weight of it all, the text glaring back at him like a taunt. No apology, no explanation, just 3 words that couldn't undo the hours she'd spent pretending he didn't exist, his fingers hovering over the reply button, tempted to type, Why should I? But something held him back, a gut instinct that whispered, this wasn't just a bad night. This was a crack in something bigger, something darker, his brown eyes flickering as he pocketed the phone and drove the last block home. The apartment. Dark when he arrived, their corgi Milo lifting his head from the couch with a sleepy whine. No sign of Lila, no note, just the faint scent of her new perfume. Floral, sharp, unfamiliar, lingering in the air, his brown eyes scanning the living room, the framed photo of their Telluride ski trip mocking him from the shelf, a memory of when her smile was his alone, a memory that now felt like a lie. His heart pounding as he sank into the couch, Milo curling beside him, the clock ticking past midnight, each second stretching the ache in his chest, an ache that grew, sharper when he heard the front door click open at 2:48 a.m. Lila slipping in, her heels in one hand, her makeup smudged, not tear-streaked but softened, like it had been brushed away in a rush, her silhouette pausing in the doorway, unaware. Ethan was awake, his brown eyes tracking her as she tiptoed upstairs, her phone buzzing once then twice before she silenced it. The quiet heavier than ever, his mind racing with questions he wasn't ready to ask, questions that burned brighter when she came. Down the next morning, her auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, her voice bright as she poured coffee. You left early last night. No trace of guilt, just a casual shrug that stung more than a slap, his brown eyes meeting hers, searching for a crack in her facade but finding none. Nathan asked where you went, she added, the name landing like a stone. Nathan Holt, the CEO whose laugh had drowned out Ethan's existence, his brown eyes narrowing as he muttered, funny, he noticed, his voice steady but laced with something new. Suspicion, a suspicion that deepened later that day, when his phone pinged with an unknown number, a video file attached, no message, just 15 seconds of footage from the rooftop. Bar shot from a corner Ethan hadn't noticed, showing Lila and Nathan on that leather couch, her hand resting on his wrist, his fingers brushing her cheek, a gesture so intimate it stole Ethan's breath, his brown eyes frozen on the screen, his heart hammering as the video looped, Lila laughing, Nathan leaning closer, the string lights, casting shadows that hid nothing, a stranger's voice breaking the silence as Ethan looked up, a man in a denim jacket leaning against a lamppost outside his office. Rough night, huh? His grin sharp, his eyes sharper, introducing himself as Jasper Kane, a freelancer who saw things at the party, his brown eyes locking on Ethan's as he said, check the timestamp, 10:25 p.m., right before you left. His words, a spark. That lit Ethan's doubt into a flame, Jasper's smirk fading as he added, your wife's playing a game, man, and you're not in it, before slipping into the crowd. Leaving Ethan clutching his phone, the video still paused, his brown eyes burning with a truth he couldn't unsee, a truth that Lila wasn't just distant, she was gone. Her heart somewhere else. Her life somewhere else. A truth that pushed him to the edge of a cliff he hadn't known he was standing on, his brown eyes lifting to the Denver skyline, the mountains a distant blur, his heart racing with a choice he wasn't ready to make, a choice between confronting her and chasing answers, a choice that would lead him deeper into a web he couldn't yet see, a web spun by secrets, lies, and a man named Nathan Holt, a web that would test everything Ethan thought he was, everything he thought he had, everything he thought he could lose. 3 days after the rooftop party that shattered his world, Ethan Caldwell, a 32-year-old accountant drowning in doubt, sat in a dimly lit Denver coffee shop on a chilly September morning in 2023, his brown eyes fixed on his laptop, the glow illuminating his tired face as he scoured Lila's email for clues, her password unchanged since their dating days when they shared playlists and secrets, his heart pounding with a mix of guilt and necessity. This wasn't who he was, a man sneaking into his wife's digital life, but the 15-second video from Jasper Kane, showing Lila's hand on Nathan Holt's wrist, Nathan's fingers grazing her cheek, had burned a hole through his trust, Jasper's warning, your wife's playing a game, man, and you're not in it, echoing like a drum in his skull, his brown eyes narrowing as he found an email buried in her spam folder, a confirmation for a client summit in San Diego next week, the flight booked under her company's account, Nathan Holt CC'd. No mention of colleagues, just a boutique. Hotel name Oceanside Haven that screamed getaway more than work. His chest tightening as he recalled Lila's offhand comment over dinner last night. I might have a quick trip for work, her auburn hair falling over her face, hiding her eyes, her voice too casual, too practiced, his brown eyes flickering with a resolve he hadn't felt in years. A resolve that pushed him to book a red-eye flight to San Diego. No plan, no confrontation. Just a need to see the truth for himself, to stand close enough to the fire to know it was real, his brown eyes dimming as he packed a duffel bag. Milo the corgi watching with a tilted head. Ethan whispering, "I'll be back, buddy," before driving to the airport. The Denver skyline fading in his rear view. A city that held his life but no longer his heart. A heart now racing toward answers he wasn't sure he could survive. In San Diego, under a blinding noon sun, Ethan waited in a rental car outside Oceanside Haven, his brown eyes hidden behind sunglasses as Lila stepped out of a black SUV, her sundress fluttering in the breeze, Nathan beside her, his hand low on her back. No briefcases, no laptops, just two champagne flutes waiting at check-in, their laughter floating across the courtyard, Lila's auburn hair catching the light as she leaned into him, a sight that stabbed Ethan deeper than any knife, his brown eyes burning as he followed at a distance, his phone buzzing with a text from his sister, Tessa. "You okay? Call me." But he couldn't answer. Not now, not when he was tailing his wife to a penthouse suite, overhearing a clerk say, "Mr. Holt reserved the ocean view." His heart sinking as the elevator doors closed, Lila's hand in Nathan's, his brown eyes stinging with tears he refused to let fall. His mind screaming, "This isn't her, this can't be her." But the truth was undeniable. She wasn't working. She was living a life Ethan wasn't part of. A life she'd chosen without him. A life that crushed the man who'd once carried her over the threshold of their low-dough apartment, laughing like they'd conquered the world together. A memory now ash in his throat, his brown eyes hardening as he returned to his car. Jasper's number flashing on his phone, a voicemail waiting. "Check her cloud drive, Caldwell, you'll find more than emails." A tip Ethan followed that night in a San Diego motel, his laptop open, his brown eyes scanning Lila's shared cloud folder, untouched since their tax filings, until he found a subfolder labeled Work Docs, inside it a lease agreement for a Denver condo, signed by Lila, Nathan listed as co-occupant, effective next month, rent $4,200, a fortune she couldn't afford on her PR salary. His brown eyes widening as he dug deeper, finding a company memo naming Lila as interim VP with a bonus tied to executive restructuring. A phrase that chilled him, a phrase that whispered Nathan was buying her loyalty, her love, her future, a future where Ethan was a footnote, his brown eyes blazing with a fury he'd never known, a fury that steadied his hands as he screenshot everything, his heart breaking with every click, the lease, the memo, a photo of Lila and Nathan at a company gala, her arm around his waist, a smile Ethan hadn't earned in years, his brown eyes glistening as Jasper's words rang true. She was playing a game where Ethan was the loser, the obstacle, the fool who'd trusted her, his brown eyes lifting to the motel's cracked ceiling. San Diego's ocean waves a distant hum, his heart torn between love and rage, a heart that knew he couldn't go home the same, a heart that demanded he keep digging, keep chasing, keep fighting, no matter how much it hurt, no matter what he found next, no matter what it cost to face a truth that was no longer a question, but a wound that would either destroy him or forge him into someone new, someone ready to rewrite the story she thought she controlled, someone ready to walk away from the ashes and never look back. Back in Denver after the San Diego betrayal, Ethan Caldwell, a 32-year-old accountant now hollowed by truth, sat alone in their low-dough apartment on a rainy October evening in 2023. The patter of rain against the windows, a faint echo of his fracturing world. His brown eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, staring at the lease agreement and company memo he'd found on Lila's cloud drive, proof of her planned condo with Nathan Holt, proof of her interim VP role tied to a corporate scheme, proof she'd chosen a life without him. His heart, a battlefield of love and rage as he clutched a half-empty coffee mug. Milo the corgi asleep at his feet, the apartment suffocatingly quiet without Lila, who'd left that morning with a breezy, late meeting tonight. Her auburn hair swept into a ponytail, her smile a polished lie, his brown eyes tracing the memory of her San Diego laugh, her sundress fluttering as she leaned into Nathan, a laugh that haunted him more than the lease, more than the memo, more than the champagne flutes at Oceanside Haven, his phone buzzing with a new message from Jasper Kane. "Meet me at Curtis Park, 9 p.m. Got something you need to hear." Summons Ethan couldn't ignore. Not after Jasper's video had cracked his marriage open. Not after his warning had sent Ethan to San Diego. His brown eyes hardening as he grabbed his jacket, the rain soaking his hair as he drove through Denver's slick streets, Curtis Park's dim streetlights casting long shadows, Jasper waiting. On a bench, denim jacket damp, his smirk gone, replaced by a grimness that chilled Ethan's spine, his brown eyes locking on Jasper's as the freelancer leaned forward, voice low. "Your wife's in deeper than you think, Caldwell. It's not just an affair," his words a blade that cut through the rain. Jasper's eyes flickering as he pulled out his phone, playing a voice memo recorded at a bar near the rooftop party. Nathan's voice slurring, "She's locked in now, can't back out, not with what's at stake," followed by a laugh. Then, a phrase that stopped Ethan's heart. "Once the kid's here, she's tied to me for good." His brown eyes widening in horror, his breath catching as Jasper paused the audio, letting the words sink in. "Heard that 2 nights ago, Holt was drunk, bragging to a buddy. Didn't see me," Jasper said, his voice steady but heavy. Ethan's mind reeling. "A kid? Lila's pregnant?" The question a sledgehammer to his chest, his brown eyes glistening as he remembered her recent tiredness, her skipped dinners, her vague mention of feeling off last week, brushed off as stress, a lie he'd swallowed because he'd wanted to believe her, his heart splintering as he stammered, "Is it mine?" Jasper's shrug, a cruel silence. "That's the question, isn't it? Holt seems to think it's his brown eyes burning with a pain he couldn't name, a pain that wasn't just betrayal but annihilation, the idea that Lila might be carrying Nathan's child, a wound deeper than San Diego, deeper than the condo lease, deeper than anything he'd braced for, his brown eyes darting to the rain-soaked ground, his voice barely a whisper. "Why tell me?" Jasper leaning back. "Because you're not the only one getting played. Holt's using her and she's too blind to see it." His words a spark in Ethan's darkness, a spark that didn't ease the ache but sharpened his focus, his brown eyes lifting to meet Jasper's, a storm raging inside him, a storm of questions. When did this start? How did I miss it? What else is she hiding? A storm that drove him back to the apartment, his brown eyes scanning Lila's laptop again, finding a new file in her cloud, a medical receipt from a Denver OB/GYN, dated yesterday, confirming a pregnancy, no details, just a timestamp that aligned with her late meeting, his heart collapsing as he realized she hadn't told him, hadn't even hinted. His brown eyes streaming now, tears mixing with rain on his face. The receipt a final blow that turned his love to ash, his mind flashing to their Telluride ski trip, her laugh in the snow, a laugh he'd thought was forever, now stolen by Nathan, by a future Ethan wasn't part of, his brown eyes blazing with a clarity that scared him, a clarity that said Lila wasn't just leaving, she was erasing him, building a life on his ruins, a life tied to Nathan by a child that might not be his, a child that changed everything. His brown eyes fixed on the laptop, his heart a war zone, his hands steady as he saved the receipt, a quiet vow forming. He wouldn't confront her yet, not until he knew everything, not until he could face her, with a truth she couldn't dodge, a truth that would either break him or free him, a truth that demanded he become someone new, someone who could survive the wreckage, someone who could walk through the fire and come out the other side, no matter what it took, no matter what he lost, no matter what he found next. On a stormy October night in 2023, Ethan Caldwell, a 32-year-old accountant, now forged in betrayal's fire, sat at the kitchen island of their Lodo apartment in Denver, the thunder outside a faint echo of the chaos within, his brown eyes steady, but blazing as he waited for Lila to walk through the door. His laptop closed. The OB/GYN receipt, condo lease, and company memo burned into his memory, proof of her pregnancy, her planned life with Nathan Holt, her corporate climb tied to his ruin, his heart a tightrope between heartbreak and resolve. Milo the corgi curled in his bed, oblivious to the reckoning brewing. Ethan's hands steady as he sipped water. No wine tonight, no softness, just a clarity that had replaced the man who'd stood invisible at the rooftop party. A clarity sharpened by Jasper Kane's voice memo, Nathan's drunken boast, "Once the kids hear she's tied to me," and the San Diego truth, Lila's sundress fluttering as she laughed with Nathan, a laugh that wasn't his anymore. His brown eyes unyielding as the door clicked open at 8:14 p.m., Lila stepping in. Her auburn hair damp from rain, her smile faltering when she saw him. No casual late meeting excuse tonight, just a flicker of unease in her green eyes. His brown eyes locking on hers as she set her bag down. Her voice forced, "You're up late." But Ethan didn't respond, didn't move. His silence a weapon she wasn't ready for, a silence that grew heavier as she poured a glass of wine, her fingers trembling, his brown eyes tracking every flinch, every lie she didn't yet speak until he broke the quiet with a single question. "When were you going to tell me about the baby?" His voice low, sharp, a blade that cut through her facade, her glass pausing mid-air, her green eyes widening, not with guilt but calculation, her lips parting as if to deny, then closing, her shoulders slumping as she whispered, "How did you know?" His brown eyes burning. "Does it matter? Is it his?" The question a grenade tossed across the island. Her silence louder than the storm, her green eyes dropping to the floor, a confession without words, his heart shattering as she nodded, barely perceptible. "I don't know," her voice breaking, not from sorrow but from the weight of being caught, his brown eyes glistening but unyielding as she stumbled into excuses. "It wasn't supposed to be like this, Ethan. I felt trapped. You were always so distant," her words a twisted echo of the rooftop night, blaming him for her choices, for her laughter with Nathan, for the child that might not be his brown eyes narrowing as he stood, voice steady. "Don't. You planned a condo with him. You took his bonuses. You lied to my face," her green eyes flashing with panic. "You went through my things." But Ethan cut her off. "I saw you in San Diego, Lila, saw you choose him." His revelation a thunderclap, her face paling as she gripped the counter, her green eyes darting, searching for an escape that wasn't there. His brown eyes blazing as he laid out the truth. "You're not just leaving me. You're selling me out for Nathan's game. But I'm done being your footnote." Her tears, falling now not for him but for herself, her voice a plea. "I love him, Ethan. I didn't mean to hurt you." The words a final dagger, his brown eyes steady as he delivered the blow. "I want a divorce." No shout, no rage, just a quiet certainty that shook her more than anger. Her green eyes widening. "You don't mean that." But Ethan leaned forward. "I've got a lawyer, Lila, a team that knows every move you and Nathan made, condo, bonuses, emails, all of it." Her face crumbling as she realized he wasn't bluffing. His brown eyes cold as he added, "And Jasper's got more. Video, audio, enough to bury Nathan's reputation if it comes to that." Her green eyes flashing with fear. "You wouldn't dare," but Ethan's smile was grim. "I don't want to ruin you, Lila. I want to be free." The word free a spark that lit the room, her tears stopping as she backed away, her green eyes hollow, no fight left, just a whispered, "What? Now?" His brown eyes unwavering. "You leave tonight. I'll file tomorrow." Her silence a surrender, her bag in hand as she walked to the guest room, the door closing softly. Not a slam, but a seal on their end, his brown eyes glistening as he sat alone. The storm outside fading, his heart heavy but unbroken, a heart that knew he'd faced her lies and won, not with revenge, but with truth. A truth that cost him everything, love, trust, the life he'd built, but gave him something more. A chance to rise from the ashes, a chance to become someone new, someone who could walk away from her world and never look back, someone who'd already taken the first step toward a future she'd never control, a future where he'd write the ending no matter what came next, no matter what it took to heal, no matter what he found on the other side of the fire. In the quiet dawn of April 2024, 6 months after the storm that ended his marriage, Ethan Caldwell, now 33 and lighter than he'd ever been, stood on the porch of a cozy bungalow in Boulder, Colorado, the flat irons glowing pink against a clear sky. His brown eyes calm, no longer haunted by Lila's betrayal. His heart steady as he sipped coffee, Milo the corgi chasing a butterfly in the yard. The Lodo apartment a distant memory, sold along with the pain it held. His brown eyes tracing the mountains, a new chapter unfolding after the divorce that had freed him, not broken him. The papers signed quietly in November. Lila agreeing to a clean split, no fight, no scandal, just a mutual parting Ethan had engineered with a lawyer's precision. His brown eyes gleaming with pride as he'd protected his savings, his small accounting firm, his dignity, every asset Lila and Nathan Holt thought they'd claim. His heart, unburdened by revenge. Jasper Kane's evidence, the video and audio, never needed to go public. A silent leverage that ensured Nathan's silence, Lila's retreat, his brown eyes softening as he remembered the night she left. Her green eyes, hollow, her bag in hand, the guest room door closing softly. A sound that marked the end of one life and the start of another. His brown eyes lifting to the bolder sunrise, a sunrise that felt like breathing again. A sunrise that came with a move to this small town, a place of trails and coffee shops where nobody knew his past unless he chose to share it, his heart. Open as he rebuilt, step by step. Not just a life, but a purpose. His brown eyes bright as he recalled the first weeks here, hiking Chautauqua Park, strumming a guitar he hadn't touched in years, joining a local volunteer group to teach kids math, a spark he hadn't felt since college. His brown eyes crinkling with a smile as he thought of Tessa, his sister, who'd flown in for Christmas. Her hug, a reminder he wasn't alone. Her words, "You're stronger than you know." A truth he'd started to believe, his heart warming. As he built friendships, not through apps but life. Brewery nights, trail runs, book clubs, Boulder's rhythm pulling him forward, his brown eyes catching a memory of one such night. 3 months ago, at a bookstore off Pearl Street, where he'd met Hannah Wells, a 31-year-old freelance journalist with warm hazel eyes and a laugh that didn't need to try. Their talk about dog-eared novels turning into coffee, then dinners, then evenings by Boulder Creek, her hand in his. No secrets. Just a quiet trust Ethan hadn't known he could feel again. His brown eyes glistening as he shared his story with her, not all at once, but piece by piece. Lila's laugh with Nathan, the San Diego pain, the OBGYN receipt, the divorce. Hannah listening, not with pity but with respect, seeing him as a man who'd walked through fire, not a man burned by it, his heart full as she said, "You didn't just survive, Ethan, you grew." Her words a mirror to his truth, a truth that pushed him to start something new. A non-profit tutoring program for underserved kids, launched last month, his accounting skills now a tool for change. His brown eyes alive with purpose as he mentored teens, their shy smiles a reward greater than any paycheck. His heart soaring as he stood on this porch, Hannah joining him now, her hazel eyes bright as she handed him a mug, Milo yipping at their feet. The flat irons a silent witness to a life reclaimed. His brown eyes meeting hers, no words needed. Just a shared quiet that felt like home. A home he'd built from ashes. A home where pain had forged strength, where loss had carved space for love. His brown eyes tracing her face, a realization settling. He didn't need closure, didn't need Lila's apology, didn't need to prove anything to anyone, his heart free because he'd chosen courage. Over bitterness, courage to walk away when it cost everything. Courage to rise when falling felt easier, his brown eyes lifting to the mountains, a final thought whispering, "This is my story now." A story he wrote with every hike, every lesson, taught every laugh shared with Hannah. A story not of revenge but of redemption. A story that told anyone listening, betrayal doesn't define you, it refines you. And freedom isn't found in holding on, but in letting go. In trusting that the other side of pain is a life worth living. A life Ethan lived now. One sunrise at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time, never looking back, never needing to.